Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest. He's a repeat guest. He's none other than Mr. George Ross. 94 years of age, one of the wisest men I know. George is well known for his role in teaching negotiation at the law school at NYU for over 20 years. He's the author of 2 best-selling books on real estate and negotiation, also famous for being executive vice president in the Trump Organization for many years. On today's show, we're talking about the impact of the war in Europe on investing psychology and real estate. Listen to my conversation with George Ross. Welcome, George. We're just thrilled to have you here again.
Good. It's a pleasure to be here.
So last time we spoke, George, the world was at peace. My goodness, so much has changed. The unthinkable is happening. I think when the Second World War took place, you would have been a teenager back then. You might still remember it.
I was in the Army.
Right.
Yeah, I know. I joined the Army. I enlisted in the Army when I was 17. So that's when the Second World, it was after the war was over, but I was a teenager when the war occurred.
Right. And it's feeling an awful lot like, and my father was about your age, actually. He also joined the Army. That's where he got his dental degree. So it's feeling an awful lot like some of the expansionist things that we saw leading up to the Second World War and during the Second World War. And without a specific question, what are your thoughts right now? What are your observations?
Well, I think there are parallels. No, there are definitely parallels that can be drawn, but there are also differences which are fairly major. One of the major differences, we're talking of a nuclear age.
Right.
So the possibility of massive destruction is far in excess of what was available in 1945. Also, you had a different situation where Germany was not looking to take over all of its neighbors, all of Europe. At that point, they were looking for supremacy and to conquer the way of life of neighboring areas. You have it here too, to a certain extent, because we're dealing with Ukraine, but it's really Russian. They're trying to get to a local Russian-speaking community. So there are differences, but come on, you can't. There's nothing you or I are going to do about it, or anybody that's on this call is going to do about it. So you can theorize all you want, but it doesn't get into actuality, and who knows? Of course.
And, obviously we as investors and the folks that invest in our projects, investors always want certainty in an environment, which of course never really exists.
No.
How does the uncertainty of this conflict and the possible risk of escalation, how does that affect, in your view, the climate for investment, if at all?
I don't think it affects it. It's not affected at this point. What are you going to do with it if you don't invest?
Right.
I mean, what's your alternative? Put the money under a mattress? What are you going to do? So investing, the whole theory of investing is to make whatever capital you have work for you and cover you in future years. It covers whatever expenses you have of your children or growth or businesses. And that's the purpose of investing. So I wouldn't stop investing because you don't know what's going to happen in the world. What's your alternative? Me, my crystal ball says everything is going to work out within a period of 60 days, but your crystal ball could say something entirely different. Who's to know we're right or wrong? Just let it play out. We have no control over what's going on.
Yeah, true enough.
However, having said that, the best investments that have ever made is where there is major uncertainty in the markets, because people say, I got to get out. I got to do something different. So I'll sell. And they usually take, or not usually, but very often take a path which is not appropriate because they're overreacting. I mean, what's your alternative? You're going to invest in bank stocks? I mean, they're paying 1.3.7% or something. What are you going to do with your money? How do you make it grow? So for the investor who has a certain amount of moxie or willing to run past the trends, you're going to do well, assuming that the market will change and it'll be in your favor. When you're dealing with real estate, I can only tell you one thing. It has always appreciated over a period of time. God's not making more land, and people always need a place to live. So I would be more inclined to look and say there's more opportunity than there is negativity.
Well, I think another fact is that wars historically have always been inflationary, almost without exception.
No question.
And even if this doesn't turn into a hot war involving the West, the spending is going to happen preemptively no matter what.
Yeah, correct.
So whatever efforts are underway to tamp down inflation are going to, we're going to have a very stiff headwind with a lot of military spending that was not forecast.
That's correct. Absolutely true. But it also has its sidelines. Everything is involved with military spending or commodities which people need are going to do well. They're going to improve. You got to figure out what they're going to do with energy and how they're going to implement it. And it has to do with technology and cyber attacks and how that's going to be affected. All of these things come into play in a super hot environment when you might consider this one where it's super hot or will become super hot because of inflation. But I look back, I got a lot longer time span to look back on than you do, and probably anybody else that's listening here. It seems to have a way of working out over a long period of time, and there's very little you can do about it. So why worry about something you can't correct or affect? That's my philosophy.
It served you well.
Well, yes, I've done well. I've made a lot of money. I've invested in made a lot of investments, which at the time looked somewhat questionable, but turned out to be well. I also did some duds, but I got more wins than losses, and that's all you need. That's how to be successful, have more wins than losses. And diversify, don't bet the ranch on any one particular project. That's my philosophy. It's worked out well, for me anyway.
Absolutely. I love my conversations with George. He has this ability to bring perspective, to cut through all the noise that's present in our daily lives and get to the heart of the matter. Such simple wisdom. What else are you going to do? As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.